everybody. It's us again here on Before the Hedges, presented by Kroger on DawgNation. I'm Hannah Chalker alongside our UGA recruiting expert, Jeff Sintel. Hope everyone's having a wonderful Monday evening. And Jeff, I haven't seen you since last Monday. How was your weekend?
Huge cycle of events that took place since last Monday, but we stole away with the family. We went to Kennesaw Mountain. We went upside that hill. We looked, and like 28 miles away is Stone Mountain, 20 miles away is Atlanta. And my young son Kyle had a lot of questions.
How far of a hike is that?
It's a little bit a mile straight up, but rocky terrain. You need to lock the hubs and go 4x4.
All right, that's more than I did this weekend. I went to a Braves game, just kind of hung out, didn't do anything good. But we have a great show for you coming up. First of all, Kirby Smart got paid. Some of you might have heard, some of you may not have heard, a huge new contract. We're going to talk about how that affects recruiting. We are also going to break down UGA missing out on five-star linebacker Owen Pappoe, but the race is not over yet. UGA is not giving up, and we're going to talk about all four of the Grayson 4. We also have a one-on-one interview with Jadon Haselwood, and he might have some tattoos to show off. That's going to be a really cool interview you have coming up. And lastly, we are going to talk about UGA's most wanted, who we are hunting down, the top names you guys are going to want to talk about coming up.
I got a quick question. So like when you sign a $7 million a year contract, are you going to have to buy dinner with your friends for the rest of your life? How would you think that happens?
I don't even know what I would do with that much money, Jeff.
Please engage with us on that, guys. If you get paid that much, are your friends going to make you buy dinner for the rest of your life? Pick up the check? I would imagine so. I
mean, according to you, though, so with the new $7 million a year, $49 million contract through the year of 2024, you said his salary could pay for the entire staff and scholarships.
So, you know, I'm here with the First Lady of DawgNation. I had to bring some reporter game here. So here's what I did. I did the math, and follow along. I was a journalism major, but the average Georgia Bulldog, if they're at in-state tuition with all fees included, that's about $27,000 a year. I did a quick math and put 50 out of the 85 scholarships there at $27,000 a year, and then I put 35 out-of-state scholarships there for Georgia, and that's $47,000 a year. So I carried the one, I added the 9, I put it to the power of 4. I put it for 2 seasons, and Kirby's $7 million will provide for the scholarship for all 85 guys on the roster, plus 30 walk-ons for 2018 and 2019. That's a lot of chump change.
Jeff does math, everybody.
Yep.
Hey, that's some good reporting, though.
That's some smart money right there.
All right, so $7 million a year for the next 7 years. Is this too soon? He's only been there 2 years. Do you think it's too soon for this type of commitment, or are you okay with this? We also want to hear from you guys, too, what you think about Kirby Smart's new contract.
Well, I think some ways, Hannah, it sounds like an arms race. I mean, other schools want to pay their coach. It happens in high school football. You want your guy to be paid more than the guy in the next county that's not winning as much as you guys are. And if you look at it, there's kind of a standard established in the SEC. Kirby Smart has played for an SEC title, and he's played for a national title. And he's kind of right there with the same resume pecking order as Gus Malzahn in the SEC. The only 2 guys that make more money than him in the SEC right now are Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher. Those are 2 veteran coaches, 2 guys that have won they have won a conference title and they've won a national title. So that kind of makes a lot of sense with SEC economics right there. And those are brought to you by Jimmy Sexton's Paycheck.
RJ Rain says worth every penny, and I tend to agree. I mean, 2 years in, you have an SEC title, which hadn't happened since 2005 with my boy DJ Shockley, the former quarterback. A berth in the national championship in year 2. I agree with RJ that he is worth every penny.
Well, it's kind of like anything. Entertainers, concert tickets, movies, you know, those Marvel movies make a ton of money, and that's because they're gross very well. And if you look at Georgia, they have a $33 million practice facility that was paid for like at the drop of the hat by donors, and they have a $65 million West End addition, and those donations just trickled in. So when you're winning, the donations are up, and when the donations are up, nobody's going to worry about paying a head football coach $7 million. But to me, and I wonder what everybody else out there thinks as well, that's a stark difference from the economic realities of Mark Richt maybe just 10 years ago.
I also have one more thing to talk to you about, the most important thing. We teased it off the top of the show. How does this affect recruiting? I mean, this is some serious stability. He'll be there the next 7 years, through 2024. That's a long time. What does that say to recruits?
Yeah, I mean, what it does really is it embellishes one of his main selling points to recruits. When he's in there and he got those recruits in the office, these terms come up. Somehow it's conveyed that Kirby Smart grew up in Georgia, that he played for the University of Georgia, that he was an assistant coach at the University of Georgia, that he was a 4-time scholar athlete at the University of Georgia. He married a Georgia basketball, women's basketball letterman from the state of Georgia. He went over, won a lot of championships, played in a lot of big games at Alabama, and now he's back home with a 7-year deal. So he's not going anywhere. Like basically what he said at the end of the press conference when Georgia fell to Alabama in the national championship game, he said, we're not going anywhere, and that applies to Kirby Smart's paycheck and professional status too.
Bubby Dean says, Jeff, put your earbud back in.
Thanks, bud. Appreciate it, man.
We're just looking out for you on the show.
You know, it could be like a fun little DawgNation before the Hedges game.
How many times over under does Jeff's earbud pop out of his ear?
Or you have some of your Yoo-hoo drink or something like that whenever Jeff's earbud pops out.
All right, well, speaking of recruiting, there has been some major wins for Georgia recently, but last week was not so great for Kirby Smart and company. They missed out on 5-star linebacker Owen Pappoe, a member of the Grayson 4. They committed live last Tuesday, which was May 1st, live on our SEC Country page on the sister site. You were a part of the coverage, so you got to talk to Owen Pappoe afterwards, and he said that he was UGA all the way, sophomore year, junior year. It was only recently that Auburn came on strong. What happened?
Yeah, I guess everybody will, this will be a footnote to history, and I wonder if people will think what happens on December the 20th this year when the early signing period arises. But Owen Pappoe's love for Auburn kind of crystallized right around that back-to-back games for Auburn when they knocked off #1 Georgia and then they knocked off #1 Alabama. That's when Owen started feeling some type of way and started really giving Auburn a really good look. And I tell you, that's something to think about because Georgia, you know, the one thing I wanted to really do in this segment, Hannah, is because everybody's sitting there and Georgia has a miss there with Owen Pappoe, a great target, top 10 target in the class of 2019. But you got to remember, Georgia last year had 7 5-stars committed. But if you added up all the time that those guys were committed until they signed, that's only like 13 months or so, which is a striking difference to the current 3 5-stars they have committed now, who have all been committed for an average of 390 days. I mean, Nolan Smith's been committed since last January. Jadon Haselwood, a guy that we're going to profile a little bit later on our show, he's been committed since last March. And then you got Dominic Blaylock committed since last July. And everybody wants to talk about dog years for our favorite animals. Well, I'm going to talk about dog years when it comes to 5-star commitments, because I think 1 month for a 5-star commitment is probably holding on to that guy's probably like 4 months in real time. So those guys, an average of 390 days per one of those 5-star commitments, that is a very sporty stat.
There you saw the 8 2019 commits. What are the chances? What, in your opinion, what are the odds, if any, that he could possibly end up a dog?
Oh, Owen Pappoe? Owen's a guy that everybody's going to wait and see. Like some people close to Owen, and they even were commented on the record about it, like Kenyatta Watson Sr., one of his greatest advisors. Kenyatta's bought a lot of groceries and fed Owen for many years, going back to those Gwinnett Chargers days. And he just said, totally off his hip, just him, nobody's told him anything at all. He told me, and we reported on DawgNation, that he thinks Owen eventually ends up at Georgia in December. He thinks he signs with Georgia. So that shows there's a lot of work to be done. It's going to be, Auburn's going to have to continue to pick up great commitments, kind of like Tyler Fromm, Jake's younger brother, that they got the other day. So Auburn's got to build a great class. They got to have a great season, and I bet that linebackers coach, Travis Williams, T-Will, everybody calls him, he needs to stick with that staff. Otherwise, that Pappoe commitment might get a little shaky.
Let's address the elephant in the room for a minute. That is Jake Fromm's younger brother, Tyler Fromm, committing to Auburn. And if you watched any of our shows on any of our platforms, we've shown the tweet throughout the day of him standing with Gus Malzahn. How does that make you feel, Jeff?
I just think folks should be proud, because you really have 2 players right here, 2 brothers, 2 years apart, that are playing for, I mean, big boy, incredible SEC football factories. You know, the Froms are great people. They're salt of the earth, wonderful people, and they've got 2 sons. Their 3rd son, Dylan's also a remarkable quarterback. He's just not as tall as Jake is. I've looked at Dylan for a long time, and I think Dylan was a couple of inches taller, maybe 6'1" or 6'2" like Jake is. Jake's about 6'2½", but I think Dylan would also be a big-time college quarterback, a big Power 5 quarterback. Right now, a lot of lesser offers are there for him, like South Alabama, I believe. Mercer is another school that's offered the younger brother. But with Georgia, they never offered Tyler. Tyler is going to be a great get. He's going to be a big, slender guy, runs great routes. He shined at the Atlanta opening. Great hands, big catch radius. Going to take a while, though, for him to, you know, he's just the nation's number 24 tight end, and everybody wonders about how does Georgia let this guy get away? Well, it just feels like Georgia and Auburn. Vince Dooley, you know, Rodney Garner, Tracy Rocker. I mean, there's guys that have went flip-flop back and forth, and, you know, Will Muschamp's another guy. They're just guys that have kind of been with one program and ended up with another, and I just think that just feels like the Georgia-Auburn rivalry. To add another wrinkle, Jake Fromm at Georgia, Tyler Fromm at Auburn.
I'm proud of our comment section. Everyone's being super supportive, and I think it's great. I think it's going to make the rivalry even more fun come this fall and talk about all of the storylines. I think it's going to be fun.
I think it's an incredible stat. Really quick point. We in the recruiting world, we know that only 1% out of high school football players end up going to go play the college level, especially in the SEC.
Wow.
And that Fromm household has 2 boys at the same dinner table that are both going to play in the SEC.
So cool. So cool. Okay, well, let's get back to talking about the Grayson 4 for just a minute. 4-star defensive end Kevin Harris. So he committed to Alabama over Miami and LSU the same day that Owen Pappoe committed, as well as the other 2 teammates. Why wasn't Georgia in the mix at all?
I think Georgia, let's just kind of call it what it is. I think Georgia burnt that bridge. Kevin Harris actually wanted to commit to Georgia at one time. Georgia, I've been told by sources on the Harris side of things, wasn't ready to accept his commitment, and that led to a little animosity. Everybody knows, like in high school, when someone puts himself on the line, ready to commit, and the other party is not ready to make that commitment. Well, sometimes feelings get hurt, sometimes, you know, tempers flare, whatever. And Kevin Harris decided to move on. I think it's pretty interesting about the Grayson 4. Wanye Morris was a guy Georgia wanted at one time, and then people on the Grayson staff tell me they have no earthly idea why Georgia stopped recruiting Wanye Morris, a 6'6", 295-pound offensive tackle. My personal thought there is Georgia's just looking for a bigger body in high school at tackle. You got Kenyatta Watson as well. Kenyatta Watson the second. He ended up choosing between Texas and Notre Dame. Georgia was off and on with him a little bit. Georgia finally did offer him late in the game, but that's when his mind was already really made up.
And 4-star offensive tackle Wanye Morris committed to Tennessee. So is Grayson High School just anti-UGA, Jeff?
No, it's not that. I think the Harris story plays a lot into it, where, like, I mean, Kenyatta Watson Sr. told us, and we wrote about it on DawgNation, where when Owen learned that about how Georgia wasn't ready to accept his commitment, that bothered him, and it really bothered him a lot, because Kevin and Owen are good friends. They play on the same team at Grayson, and there are defensible points on both sides. You know, the Georgia side of things there is that, you know, Georgia already had Nolan Smith committed in the class. They didn't know how many the outside linebackers they wanted. They were still chasing Adam Anderson in the class of 2018. They were chasing Brenton Cox in the class of 2018. They were about, when all this stuff, you know, finally, you know, came down, they were about to receive a commitment from Azeez Ojulari out of Marietta High School. So you gotta wonder sometimes, because I think a lot of recruiting sometimes is cause and effects, and it's very fluid. Georgia, I mean, they went Waffle House, scattered, smothered, covered, dapped, kiced, whatever you want to say, mushroomed at the outside linebacker spot in 2018, and now they don't have enough room at the end to take a big-time talent like Kevin Harris in 2019.
All right, we're going to take a few questions and comments before we move on. I've tried to save some off to the side, but if you've asked a question and we don't get to it, just keep putting it at the top. So the first one is Tom Lavelle says, we need some big guys up front. We look good for Trayvon Walker. Who else? Any chance of Chris Hinton flipping from Michigan?
Well, that would be the biggest flip in the world. I think that's the one a lot of Georgia families have kind of started working on the Hintons in their family about. Currently committed to Michigan, and the Hinton family there is a package deal. They've got I think a franchise left tackle in Miles Hinton in the class of 2021. But with Chris, that family stresses academics. His mom, I believe, got her JD, her Juris Doctorate from Notre Dame. His father, Chris Hinton, went to college at Northwestern. Chris Hinton was one of the most incredible offensive linemen in the 80s in the NFL, and probably one of those short list guys that are just almost right there, Hall of Fame worthy, but just didn't make it. Chris Hinton's a guy, huge target, 5-star, strong side defensive end with Philly huge need, but right now he's still kind of firmly committed to Michigan.
Several people are asking about what happened to Dom Sanders.
Dominic Sanders, I mean, he started more games than any position player for Georgia in history. And I think when he plays, if he would play with earbuds, they would actually be able to stay in his ears as well. He was that talented. But you look at Dominic, he's not super prototype size, not super prototype skills and speed like other guys. And a lot of people maybe just think he's topped out as a college player. Normally, it's not that hard to get a free agent contract coming out of college, even if you don't get drafted. So Dominic Sanders, clearly that's an endorsement from the best evaluators in the world for pro football players that Dominic Sanders is maybe very, very good SEC, but that shows the difference. I think when you look at every recruiting class, one thing to look at is don't expect even a top-rated recruiting class to all guys go to the NFL. I mean, even at the Power Fives at the huge schools, if you look at the stats, no more than 6 or 7 players out of every recruiting class will eventually wind up in the NFL. And I mean, Alabama is a school that's an aberration of that because I think their entire 2013 recruiting class has now been drafted and is now in the NFL. But Georgia's building in that direction the way they're stacking up blue chips right now.
All right, keep your comments coming. We're going to get to some more a little bit later in the show. But for now, you are watching Before the Hedges presented by Kroger. Let the celebration begin with custom cakes, party platters, and more to celebrate your grad. Visit Kroger.com/graduation or visit your local Atlanta Kroger today to start planning your graduation celebrations. And also remember, Mother's Day is this Sunday, and Kroger is a great place to go for maybe flowers and a nice card. That's Just Some Tell. I'm Hannah Chalker. Thanks so much for joining us. We are live on DawgNation every single Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. You getting your wife anything for Mother's Day?
Yeah, I am, and I've got a great idea, a great original idea that my kids actually helped with. And of course, I'm not spilling this on Facebook Live right now, but I want to do something really fast. This is people helping people on Before the Hedges. I want everyone in the comment section to share, and people helping people, give us your 2 money 5-star Mother's Day ideas right now. Drop them in the comment section, and the person you help might just be your own husband.
Maybe. That's great. And we'll get to that a little bit later.
I want to see those go-to 5-star Mother's Day gifts.
Okay, I like it. All right, well, now we are going to give you, like we do every week, we're going to give you an updated look at 2018, 2019, but the 2018 team roster is loaded with youth talent. Didn't you say there's like 52 freshmen on the 2018 roster? What are the trends?
Yeah, so what we did is we have a question of the day feature now with recruiting. It shows up on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and one of our DawgNation forum users, really appreciate that good question there, sir. I turned it into a pet project, and one day I wrote about the ideal scholarship allocation for the University of Georgia. I looked at what I thought it should be, and then I looked at where it is right now. And if you look at our chart, and I got to give props to my man Mark in the graphics department, because that is a
look at that graphic.
I mean, I might want to give
That's
this thing 6 stars. It's so popping. But first thing I want you guys to pay attention to is the left side of this chart, and that's the scholarship allocation. And I know people maybe we got some Georgia Tech grads in here with their slide rules and their calculators or whatever. They're saying, Jeff, what's up with that funny math? If I'm adding them up really quickly, and this is like my tax return, it's not coming up right. Jadon Hunter is a guy that only played in the first game very sparingly for Georgia last year. And I'm thinking there might be some sort of ruling about whether he gets a redshirt season for his freshman year or he's a sophomore. He's currently classified as a sophomore, according to the information that we get from Georgia in terms of media. But there might be a chance there where he gets reclassified as a freshman, much like Solomon Kinley. But the big takeaway from that one is you look at that 34 freshmen and redshirt freshmen. Of course, that's fueled by the 26 signees for 2018, but also 18 sophomores. Quickly look at the math. That's 52 out of Georgia's 85 eventual players next year in 2018 are either freshmen or sophomores. So those are young bucks. So a lot of people, I hope you're looking at that chart and thinking 1 + 1 = SEC. And if Georgia can win the SEC East with a with 52 out of their 35 players, 52 out of their 85 players as freshmen or sophomores, that just bodes for great things. On the right side of the chart, you're going to see offensive and defensive. Two takeaways right there. It's Georgia, Kirby Smart. It's a defensive branded program. They're always going to have more guys, more offers, more scholarships on the defensive side of the ball. Why? Because Kirby likes to make sure that his special teams are stocked with athletes that can run, that can cover and can tackle in space. Those are the great guys, the safeties, the outside linebackers that will be great assets to the coverage units. You look at there on offense. There's some really kind of interesting ratios right now.
I got to ask you about the wide receivers, Jeff. 12? Does UGA really need 12 scholarship wide receivers?
I don't think so. And you look at it, and what it does is it's another cause and effect thing, Hannah, because you look at 12 wide receivers, and Georgia's really only going to get production from about 7 or 8 of those guys this year, it looks like. So if you only had like 10 receivers per se, then you could fix how worrisome and troublesome it's going to look like at quarterback for Georgia with just Jake Fromm and Justin Fields on scholarship there in the class, on the 2018 roster. Georgia would love to have 3. I know a lot of schools like to have 4, but I think it's going to be very, very hard for Georgia to get 4 guys when they actually have 2 5-stars at the top, because nobody's want to come and join in that quarterback derby right there. But Georgia's going to run the ball a lot. That's why I don't think they need 12 receivers. They're very rarely in 5 wides that much.
Well, if they have too many wide receivers, what's an area that they are thin on scholarships?
Yeah, and Hannah, what you can do right there is you can balance out a lot of these numbers. What's going to happen is you can take 1 or 2 of the rest of those wide receivers, and then you can sit there and you can go to, I can get another quarterback, I can get another tackle. Defensive tackle is another area where Georgia's light with as well. And one more thing about that chart that just catches my eye. I think it's unique how you protect both positions this year with Marshall Long as a veteran punter, Rodrigo Blankenship as your veteran kicker, and then you're bringing in a hybrid like Jake Cremata, nation's top punter in a lot of services. He can punt and he can kick, so that would cover an injury for Georgia if they have an injury at punter or an injury at kicker. But to me, it's pretty weird in the world of big boy college football when you have 3 punters and kickers on scholarship and you only have 2 quarterbacks. That's some upside down inverted pyramid type scholarship allocations right there.
So there's your 2018 scholarship breakdown, but let's go right to the 2019 offers list, because maybe some of these guys are going to fill the holes that we just talked about.
Yeah, you can look at that, and when you look at 2019, what you're wanting to do is Georgia's probably going to try to find a couple of guys that will change that ratio up. And if you look at it again, it's another theme here. They've got more guys on the defensive side of the ball. I think the number now is 240 total offers. That's up 3 from last week. And look at the positions of emphasis. Defensive tackle. Georgia didn't sign any defensive tackles in 2017. Devontae Wyatt was one in 2018. Jordan Davis, Tramel Walthor. What's his status? Is there a chance he could be a gray shirt? Yeah, I think there's a chance, but that race is not run yet with his high school academics yet. Got a few things to polish off right there. And you look, they've offered 1 punter or kicker. I don't think that gentleman's going to eventually sign with Georgia. But that one number that's been static is defensive tackle. Georgia's stayed with those 18 guys they like for quite some time. And again, Georgia's going to put a huge emphasis on those linebackers, and a lot of those are those outside linebackers in their jack scheme at defensive end. You flip over to the offense and you start looking about who's the quarterback. Georgia has 15 offers out to the quarterback spot. I think Georgia's going to sign 1 running back this year after signing the nation's #1 and #3 running back in 2018. Will they take a 3rd receiver? They've already got the nation's #1 and #2 receivers committed there. 1 tight end, and that's another thing. When you look back at that scholarship allocation number, Georgia is going to need more tight ends than other programs with, like a spread team, because they don't use 2 tight end sets or 3 tight end sets like Georgia does sometime to really ram that rock home in the run game and pound the ball, but that's what Georgia likes to do. Georgia's going to have 5 tight ends committed, 5 tight ends signed on their average four-year spread with all their scholarship stuff. Athletes are those guys that can play a variety of positions. Trezman Marshall is the guy that just committed the most recent Georgia commitment. He committed on April the 27th, and he was an athlete, nation's #9 athlete, but he's straight inside linebacker for Georgia between the hedges.
So the 2019 offer list continues to take shape, but Jeff, how long have these guys been committed?
Well, I think that's the grand thing about it. I mean, if you want to talk about perspective with a lot of these guys, everybody wants to know. I did some quick math as well. I guess this was my math episode with everything else. But
don't hurt yourself.
Georgia signed 7 5-stars. Everybody knows that. That's been the common bullet point about their 2018 class. But if you add up the months all those gentlemen were committed before they signed with Georgia, it's only about 13 months. And really 6 or 7 of those, 6 of those is Zamir White, who committed last May to Georgia, who was the first 5-star to commit to Georgia. Now, conversely, you look at the 2019 class, you look at Jadon Haselwood, you look at Dominic Blaylock, and you look at, obviously, Nolan Smith, the first commitment for 2019, and this is a haymaker stat. The 3 of those guys, you average them up together, 390 days is the average length of those commitments. And you look at that, Nolan Smith has already been committed to Georgia longer than all 7 of those 5-stars that eventually signed with Georgia in 2018. And when I said earlier, that is just an incredible stat there. When you look at those guys and how Georgia has had 3 5-stars committed for so long, I don't people really dig that. I don't think people really get that when they say, oh, Owen Pappoe goes to Auburn, what's happening with Chris Hinton, these are some misses. Georgia has legitimately already landed the 3 most important commits of the 2019 class, and they landed them last year.
5 4-stars, 3 5-stars on that list. Unbelievable. I think Georgia is just going to be, these recruiting classes are going to be insane going forward, and I just see a trend matching up with Alabama that's happening.
Well, what's happening now is everybody's like, you know, listen, folks are not patient with this stuff at all. They want it to come out like they're going through the drive-thru at Chick-fil-A or something like that. But Georgia's going to sign a smaller class in 2019. They're going to sign about 21 or 22 guys, maybe even 20 depending on guys that go pro and which scholarships get freed up under that 85 hard cap. So fewer numbers means lesser offers and means lesser takes and more evaluations on the guys who are actually going to sign in 2019.
All right, one of those 2019 commits, that's 5-star wide receiver Jadon Haselwood. You had the chance to have a one-on-one interview with him. He's got 1 year left in high school before taking his talents to Athens, and you had a really fun interview. We're about to take a look, and I think there's something with tattoos, a tattoo frenzy.
I'll tell you what, if anybody has more tats right now or body art than one Jadon Haselwood, the Georgia's highest ranking commitment in 2019, please chime in because I think he's got you beat.
All right, here we go. Let's take a look.
Jadon, we remiss if we didn't ask you about Owen Pappoe. Pappoe recently chose Auburn. Yeah. What are your thoughts about that? And you know, when your overall feeling when he commits to Auburn? How did you take that?
I was happy for him, man. It's a business decision for him, and I feel like he can come in and play. Do 3 years and go to the draft.
How'd you feel about G-Day? You were there. It looks like nobody caught you dancing like they did Nolan or everything like that. But how would you sum up G-Day? Maybe to those recruits that were there, like a TREY Sanders, other guys like that.
Those are my guys. So it's always fun linking up with those 3. And Legend, Cavazos, yeah.
What do you think about those 2? Legend told me he was already feeling some type of way about Georgia. He said that was their leader. That was his new leader, and there was no secret to that. Yeah. And even TREY Sanders. Do you think that's a guy that Georgia needs to pull into the 2019 class?
TREY, yeah, I think we need TREY. He a dog, and I can see it in his eyes.
How does he feel about Georgia right now?
As of right now, what he's telling me, I think he's strongly interested.
What do you think right now keeps you strongly committed to Georgia?
Just the staff. I mean. But I'm not going for a staff, to be honest, though. But I know that my boy Justin going to do right by me if I go there.
You're inked up a little bit. Can you take us through all your tattoos? I know, maybe let's start with the newest one, which is Rolling Stone.
Yeah, I got Rolling Stone on my leg. Let me explain that for y'all. So my life right now, I'm going everywhere, touring, going everywhere, schools and stuff like that. And I'm always traveling. I'm never home. And I'm always putting that work in.
And what else you got? I know you have a lot of family connections and spiritual connections with the remainder of your art. Explain those for us.
I got Trust Your Struggle right here on my right here, and I got Wisdom, and I got a Guardian Angel right there, and I got the cracks to fill it all in together, because it all tie in to Trust Your Struggle. That the cracks mean struggle.
How many tattoos do you currently have?
Man, I don't even know. I don't even count them. I just take my time with them though, so I won't get nothing stupid.
Which one was the longest and which one hurt the most?
The one on my side. It's a Buddhism tattoo. I believe in that philosophy. You live your life right, the life gonna do right by you.
Tell me about the wolves.
The wolves right here?
Oh yeah.
That's my personality. Like, I'm aggressive. I travel in packs and I'm always with my family. So, and that dream catcher right there, that mean to inspire hope for the future.
Jeff, you have a chest tat, right?
Oh, yeah. It says,
how bad does that hurt?
It says DawgNation. It says Brandon Adams is really Charles Baxter. We put our feet up on his desk. It's a big tattoo of me and Hannah with our feet on his desk. But you know, in all sincerity, I want people to really get to know Jadon on and off the field. Jadon is Georgia's highest rated recruit for 2019. And of all those, I really like the Rolling Stone. And it's the Rolling Stone script. And you're like, Jeff, why Rolling Stone? Well, I think in the last 2 months, he's been to Oklahoma, Miami, Los Angeles, Auburn, Georgia. He's all over the place. He's hardly home, and that's why he's a Rolling Stone.
Channeling his inner A.J. McCarron, I see there.
Oh, wow. There you go.
Oh, that's too much for me. Okay, so Auburn, Oklahoma, and Miami are still in the race for him, though. Tell me it ain't so.
Well, people got to understand, he's the #1 receiver in the country, and he's been committed since last March. And this is supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to. All these schools are not going to go, Georgia, you got us. We'll just go on to this other guy that we don't think can. We hope can maybe beat press coverage as well as Jadon Haselwood can. I mean, this is going to be a contested recruitment. He's a guy that looks very good. He looks very good on any type of circuit. He plays so hard, Hannah. You watch him and you look at every rep. It's like maybe he's going to lose his jersey or he's going to lose one of those tattoos if he does not have a good rep, if he doesn't play hard and he doesn't make the catch for his 7-on-7 teams. Jadon Haselwood is a guy that really works hard, plays the part, and lives up to every billing and all the hype he gets as a 2019 guy.
All right, great reporting, Jeff. That was a good piece. And you can find the entire thing on DawgNation.com, right?
That's right.
And if you want to see the picture of our feet up on the desk, just go on over to Jeff's Twitter. All right, you are watching Before the Hedges, presented by Kroger, right here on DawgNation Live. And don't forget, you can let the celebration begin with custom cakes, party platters, and more to celebrate your grad. Visit Kroger.com/graduation or visit your local Atlanta Kroger today to start planning your graduation celebrations. And don't forget, it is Mother's Day coming up on Sunday, and a lot of your tweets are coming in about what you guys are getting your mom, your 5-star ideas from Jeff. Some people said a $50 Kroger gift card, which is fantastic, edible arrangements, a vacuum cleaner, which isn't great, but some good ideas for moms out there.
Yeah, I guess Massage Envy, some of those massages are usually good go-tos. Maybe something from her favorite dress shop. This is sundress season, right? Everybody likes that. How about some concert tickets to her favorite band? And I don't think the lady moms out there would mind. Oh, well, he's not playing until December. I think that'd still be okay. Right?
At the very least, go pick up a card at Kroger for your mom. Okay, we are going to leave you today with our very last segment, UGA Most Wanted. We're coming after you. We have 4 names today, and at the top of our list, well, your list, 5-star running back TREY Sanders from IMG Academy in Florida. He's a Florida lean, but why is he at the top of your list?
Well, I mean, this is kind of like it's kind of a 2-part thing. We identified 6 guys that we thought were maybe the top targets for Georgia in the class of 2019, and I think TREY Sanders for me would be 6th, working its way down. And another thing would be like, okay, this is the nation's #1 running back, TREY Sanders. He's a 5-star. Georgia's chances at getting another 5-star in the class aren't that bad. His older brother, Olmstead, walked on at Florida. There's the talk that he will end up with a scholarship after he earns it potentially over the summer and early fall camp during drills. And, of course, that will help things with TREY. But a lot of my sources, a lot of people I talk to, a lot of those sources are on the record. They're on DawgNation the last couple of weeks. They say Georgia definitely has a big-time shot, and TREY Sanders told me himself that he feels good and great about everything at Georgia every time he's there. And even Jadon Haselwood told me that he says he can see it in his eyes that he probably could be a dog.
Couple offensive tackles, 4-star OT XAVIER TRUSS, 5-star OT DARNELL WRIGHT. Why are these 2 on your list of 6? And we're only going to get to 4 of them today. We're going to tease the other 2 for next week. But why are these 2 guys on your list? Yeah,
well, Georgia, I think was a huge priority in the class. They definitely need a couple of offensive tackles in the class of 2019. I think you look at me, Isaiah Wilson can hold down the right tackle. Hopefully that's what fans think. Cade Mays will push him. One of those 2 guys will probably win the job in fall camp. Then you got maybe DeMarcus Hayes backing up Andrew Thomas, kind of the cornerstone offensive lineman for Georgia now going forward with what he did last year as a freshman. And then you've got a guy, could it be a guy like Kendall Baker that's learning how to cross-train at multiple positions that frees up some room for a Jamari Salyer or a Trey Hill to get starting time and a lot of good reps early on for Georgia at one of those guard spots? That'll be an interesting camp storyline for sure, but what Georgia does need is a guy like XAVIER TRUSS. I think he's the nation's number 11 offensive tackle. 6'7", 350, just a huge giant of a man. He's already told DawgNation and Cox Media Group that Georgia's definitely going to get an official visit. Retweets a lot of stuff. You see a lot of things from XAVIER. And I love this picture right here, guys. He's actually next to a guy that's about 6'3" and about 320 pounds. Wow. And XAVIER at 6'7", 350 just dwarfs him. So Mr. Truss is somebody that Georgia fans should think about. Darnell Wright's another guy as well. Alabama's on him too, but he's the nation's #1 offensive tackle out of West Virginia. Georgia has been to see him already, so that's going to be another guy. I think one of those two tackles, if Georgia winds up with one of those two dudes, or maybe I know how a lot of Georgia's fans are, they're like, oh, we got to get them both, got to get them all. But I do think Georgia, an ideal mock class or ideal eventual signing day for Georgia would include one of those two names in there at tackle. Of course, Warren McClendon is a guy down there in Brunswick to think about there as well. But on my board, in those kind of top 6 guys, I think you got to address another running back, and I think you got to address a tackle position. Okay,
and my favorite 5-star cornerback, Andrew Booth. I don't know why he's my favorite. I'm just going to pull a Nolan Smith in. We need DBs, Andrew Booth. Okay, what are his chances of being in the red and black, and when will he decide?
Well, I think he's going to decide right before his senior season. Hannah, he wants to get a little bit away from right before his senior season. He wants to worry about winning a ring. He doesn't want to have to worry about all this drama. He's a guy that doesn't get into all this recruiting drama at all. He's actually, get this, Hannah, he grew about 7 inches in his freshman year. He went from 5'5" to about 6 feet. 190 pounds. He just got reevaluated into the nation's #1 cornerback. He's a 5-star. Smart people that think they know everything about his recruiting often say Clemson is the leader. Auburn and Georgia are kind of jockeying with Tennessee to maybe be the team that pushes Clemson in the end. I think this is going to be a big summer for Andrew. I know Nolan Smith has prioritized him. Georgia just really recently got on him hard over the last maybe 5 or 6 months. Out of Archer High School in Gwinnett County. That's another guy that if he ends up going to Clemson, that would be another gut punch for Georgia when it comes to a 5-star corner going up to Clemson and leaving the chance to play between the hedges.
Yeah, Tom Lavelle and some other people in the comment section have said, you know, sad to say, think he's going to Clemson, but we'll just have to wait and see. All right, those are 4 of the 6 names on your SEC, well, UGA most wanted. Who are the other 2 that we're going to be talking about next week?
Well, I'm gonna tease it a little bit, and I'm gonna see if you guys can come up with a little context clue. He plays football. He plays basketball. He's got a last name that resonates with Georgia fans. Okay. In the lore of UGA football and its traditions, and he's another 5-star, and I think he is the #1 prospect on my adjusted board for Georgia to get in the class of 2019.
All right, we are going to squeeze in just a few comments. I know that we are running late. I think BA says that a lot, running late, but we really are running late. Today, we're going to squeeze in just a few comments. Okay, Alvin Todd says, which we talked about before the show, with the new grad transfer punter, will he be on a scholarship? And maybe give us a little background if you know anything about the new punter.
Yeah, so Cameron Nizelek was a guy last year that came out of the Ivy League out of Columbia, and he was fantastic. He was an all-SEC level punter, but he was not on a scholarship, and that sort of thing there makes one wonder about what's the future of Marshall Long, former U.S. Army All-American, who punted a little bit during his freshman season, well, a lot. He got injured. Next year, he was rehabbing. Cameron Nizelek came in and did the job, but Georgia bringing in a graduate transfer at punter, is that a guy to just maybe spark the competition, much like Georgia did last year with graduate transfer David Marvin, to get the best possible football out of Rodrigo Blankenship in 2017? That might be something there, but to me, when you're looking at scholarships and if Georgia has room, maybe potentially you bring in Jake Cremata as well. He can do the job at punter as well, the nation's #1 punter. I think all those graduate transfer stuff will be very interesting as people try to bide their time and just wait and wait and wait until real football practice starts.
Okay, I'm going to rapid fire a few questions, names for you. Trayvon Walker.
Trayvon Walker, yeah, you guys just saw the picture right there, 5-star. I think he makes his decision sometime maybe during the middle of summer or maybe right before his senior year. electric type player. He's already about 6'5", 260. He was the man in the middle that anchored Upson Lee's basketball team, which won 64 straight games, including back-to-back state titles.
Nakobe Dean.
Nakobe Dean, everybody thinks of him now as Owen Pappoe Insurance, the nation's #1 inside linebacker. He's out of Mississippi. Another 5-star, another guy that's visiting Georgia this weekend, I'm told. And he's a guy that everybody wonders, Georgia's only going to get another inside linebacker if he's elite. Maybe Christian Harris might get into the mix there as well. But Nakobe Dean, a lot of the grapevine, a lot of tea leaves out there kind of say LSU, Alabama. Is Georgia in the mix there with him as well?
And Lewis Kine.
Oh, Lewis Kine, a great kid out of Texas. He's a guy that if we're finishing our exhaustive and our totally complete most wanted list of the top 5 or 6 guys in 2019, you could look to see his name on there. He's the nation's #3 safety. Remember, Georgia missed on Kyle Hamilton. He went to Notre Dame. And I can see Lewis is a guy that might eventually, he's already told me he's probably likely going to take an official visit back to Georgia. Georgia and Penn State right now are the only 2 schools which are recruiting him hard. And Lewis is about 6'3", almost 6'3", and about 180, 85 pounds. And remember, Georgia didn't sign any true safeties last year. So that's a guy to think about there. I know Nadab Joseph might be a guy that might play some safety. But Lewis would be a huge get for Georgia, pulling him out of Texas in the class of 2019.
All right. We got to get out of here. Our staff has been here all day. The air conditioning is also out in this room, so we can pull the curtain back there. It's a little warm, so I think it's time to get off air. What do you think?
Hannah, you're marvelous here running the show as the point guard here. Nobody's seeing you sweat at all. You're doing a great job.
All right, guys, as always, thank you so much. We appreciate it so much that you join us every Monday at 7 p.m. on Before the Hedges presented by Kroger. As always, you can go and get everything that Jeff does, all the intel on DawgNation, some amazing stuff that you've been putting out, Jeff.
Well, this is the time when writers have to really write and report because everybody's a little bit bored, or they're thinking about spring, they're thinking about vacation plans, they're thinking about, oh, going to go to the Braves game a couple nights a week and hang out with all the friends. But it's supposed to be that way, and it's fun because sometimes you got to write when the natural subjects and storylines aren't there.
Awesome stuff. Okay, follow us on Twitter for updates. Go follow DawgNation or our sister site SEC Country on all of the different platforms. We are everywhere, and we will see you guys next week. Have a wonderful week. Don't forget to go to Kroger, grab your mom some card, some flowers, and we will see you right back here next Monday. Bye, guys.
Take care of those moms.